And I would suggest you indent one word from either side. Okay. And so what that might look like is something like this. Timperis here, author of 4-Hour Workweek, Tools of Titans, etc. How do you speed up the consumption of, say, text? If you want to read faster, how do you do that without succumbing to some pseudoscience nonsense about speed reading? There's a lot of garbage out there. But how can you improve your ability to absorb written information without sacrificing comprehension? There are some very straightforward ways to do it, and I'm going to show you that right now. Step number one is figuring out roughly how many words per page, and you're going to count the number of words in 10 lines. Okay? So you come up with a total, divide it by 10. That's your average number of words per line. You can see here, most books have a consistent number of lines per page. You multiply that, let's just say it's 30. Okay, you have an average of 10 words per line. That's 300 words per page. Great, easy enough. What we want to do next is establish your baseline. So you're going to read for 1 minute. You're going to be focusing on reading at your normal speed. Of course, now you have an experimental or observer effect, so it might be slightly off, but that's all right. You're going to read for 1 minute, then you're going to do the math. Figure out how many words roughly have I read. That is your words per minute rate, your WPM. And what we do should help double or triple that without too much trouble. I'll do a demo before we go into how to mess with your book. If you look at, say, my nose, can you still see my finger? Of course you can. Can you still see my finger over here? Yes, you can. That is your peripheral vision. We read word by word. So we go from the furthermost left word to the furthermost right word, and so on. Seems logical. The problem with that is you're not using any of this space or the margins. And the way that you then remedy that is by drawing lines on some pages. And I would suggest you indent one word from either side. Okay. And so what that might look like is something like this. So now you have lines going down either side of the page. And instead of starting all the way to the left, you're going to start at this line, and then you're going to end at that line. You're now going to be zigzagging just as you would normally, but the parameters or the boundaries have been moved in by a word. You will not have any trouble reading, and you should still have full comprehension. And if you do this for, say, 5 to 10 pages, then if you're not having any trouble whatsoever, you can indent by another word, and you can either use lines or you can spitball it, you can estimate it. By doing this alone, just that, you can train yourself to get to the point where effectively you are very much focusing on the middle third of the page, and you're just dotting down the page left to right. And that in and of itself could easily double your reading speed without sacrificing comprehension. The next observation, just mechanically, that can be very helpful is that the eye doesn't track in a clean, smooth line. You want to do a test, close one eye, you put a finger on that eye, and then slowly track across the wall. And what you'll notice is that the eye jumps. Saccadic movements. The eye will jump from fixation point to fixation point. How do we utilize that? What that means is when you're looking at a given page, your eye isn't moving smoothly across each line. It's fixation, fixation, fixation. So the less bounce back or bounce up, and the fewer fixation points we have, it's the less time we're going to spend reading each page. What we're going to do now is use a pacer. So you could use your finger and try to think of 2 fixation points per line for your eye. But this will keep you from bouncing up to previously read material. We've all had the experience of being really sleepy, say, and feeling like you've read the same 2 lines 5 or 6 times. This is partially because your eyes are tired and you end up back skipping and jumping all over the place. All right, so then you use your marker, your pacer, to move down the page. The next thing you're going to do is, say for 5 minutes, is to read slightly faster than your comprehension allows. So you want to get to the point where you're losing maybe 10%. And the effect that we're looking for is resetting your comfort set point in reading at full comprehension. In other words, if you're used to always driving at 30 miles an hour, and then you get to the point where you're on a highway, say a speed limit 80 miles an hour, and suddenly you feel like you're operating at very high speed, you then dial back when you go into, say, a 55 zone, it feels like 30, right? You've adapted to the faster speed. So for 5 minutes, just practice reading with slight comprehension loss, so a little bit faster than is comfortable. And then what I want you to do is retest your word per minute rate. So now you're going to use the bumping in from either side, you're going to use the pacer, and I want you to make sure that you have full comprehension. I would wager that the vast majority of you, probably close to 100% if you followed all these instructions, will have at least improved your reading speed by 50%. Some of you will double, triple, quadruple your reading speed without sacrificing comprehension. No voodoo, no magic involved. It's just understanding the mechanics of the eye, a little bit about about optical perception, and then recognizing how you can optimize that for the printed page. And that's it. So congratulations, you've probably doubled or tripled your reading speed. And for poetry, for fiction, you can always read slower, but now that you have a Ferrari instead of a Yugo, you can choose from a wider range of speeds. So, have fun reading,